Welcome to this special training on how to sidestep the head junk that pops up when we start writing. So here's my question for you. Have you ever sat down to start writing some copy? Maybe it's for you, maybe it's for your business, maybe it's for your clients, and you've talked yourself out of the awesomeness that you could actually achieve on the page. And what that might look like is staring at the blank page. Oh, blank pages can be mean. So it might be just staring at that blinking cursor, not really knowing what to do next. It could be the white noise of no ideas. It could be the mad jumble of too many ideas, just not knowing how to structure them. And when that starts to happen as the time ticks by, that's usually when that little imposter complex starts coming up, that little voice that says, you don't really know what you're doing, do you? Didn't think so. All that other copy you read, they know what they're doing. You should not be doing this. And that is where the downward spiral really accelerates. As soon as you're in that narrative, it's really hard to get your mojo back in place to write the awesome copy. Yeah, so this is what we're talking about today. Let me know in the comments if any of those scenarios sound familiar to you. I want to hear from you. So it's really interesting what happens when we have writing, when we do writing, when we want to write, because most of us have a really clear idea about whether we can draw or whether we can paint. You know, I always, graphic design and artistic pursuits are kind of my go-to, because I have a very, I am trying to correct a negative dialogue I have with myself saying, I can't do that. And it's often the same from writing. Oh, I'm not a good writer. You're a good writer. Let me know if you've ever said that to yourself. I can't do this. I'm not a writer, right? But that is usually seeded somewhere in the back of your mind because someone said something to you at some point. Maybe it was your high school English teacher. Maybe it was someone you admired and respected who read something that you wrote. It doesn't really matter what context. When you hear that negative feedback, it sticks really annoyingly, right? We could have had hundreds of thousands of compliments on our writing. We get one negative comment, that's the one that gets the post-it note at the front of our brain. And so it's really easy to talk ourselves into a corner about whether we can write or whether we can't write. This is what kind of really fuels our imposter syndrome, right? Oh, we shouldn't be here. I can't do this. I'm not meant to do this. I don't have the creative inspiration, the divine skill, the genetic talent to be a great writer, let alone a copywriter. But it's just BS, because copywriting is a skill, not a talent, which means it can be learned, okay? But with all this going on, we're not writing, let alone writing great copy. So in today's special training, I wanted to share 3 tips to help you sidestep the head junk and get on with writing copy. I'm just going to quickly check the comments because I want to see if anyone's asking questions as we go. Here we go. Let's move on, because the tips, that's where the good stuff is, right? The first tip I have for you is to create a map. A map? A what? So if you're staring at a blank page and you've got no ideas or you've got lots of ideas, you have to organize that before you sit down to write. And this is mapping out your writing as simple as understanding the pain points and the problems that you are solving with this piece of copy. Understanding the specific solution that you're offering, solving those pain points, right? Being really clear on the problem and on the solution, and knowing your call to action. So these are the 3 things I always have a really clear idea about before I start to write: the pain points, the solution, the call to action. Now, as a professional copywriter, I actually flesh my map out into a whole lot more detail, but that is the starting point of your map. And when you create a framework for your copywriting, and it's either a map of the key points or it's using a copywriting formula to get you started, you're banishing the blank page. It's just not a problem anymore because you've got some key information in there. And it will help you write better copy faster because you're not figuring out as you go along, you're following your map. So that's the first tip. Create a map of the points that your copy needs to hit. The second point is start with what you know. So one of the things I never ever do is start with the headline, start with the first paragraph, right? Crafting a killer headline and a first sentence that really hooks people in, that's hard work. So don't start with the hard stuff first. Start with the call to action, which you created in your map. Start with maybe some contact details. Start with some features that you have. Start with the offer. Start with the stuff you know. Put that on the page. Blank page, smashed again. Then work your way to the pieces that require a bit more thought, a bit more planning, a bit more craft, right? And so by the time you get to those parts, you're in the flow. You've written some copy. You've reread the brief. You're immersed in the world of your client or your business, right? That's the second tip I have. So create a map, start with what you know. The third tip I have for you is write like you speak. Now, I want to know who's heard this tip all the time. This is a really, really common copywriting tip, especially in the last 5 years as conversational copywriting stopped being a niche and started being the norm. And it's a really important way of writing because it removes barriers between you as the reader and me as the author, right? It becomes a conversation. Me talking to you like I am now. That's the kind of feel you want in your copy. But when you're dealing with the white noise of no ideas, of the mad jumble of lots of ideas without having any organization, then we're tempted to start writing copy like we're writing a high school essay. And it results in copy that's not clear, not compelling, and has no connection. Copy that has no spark. And yet, when we're talking to someone, when we're talking to our ideal client, the verbiage just flows. Or you're talking to your friend and you're explaining what it is you're super excited about launching. The words just flow. That's your copy. So listen to the way you're talking to your clients and your customers if you're writing copy for your own business. Do voice of customer research if you're a copywriter. But at the end of the day, pretend you're talking to someone and listen to the way you explain things. And if there's no one in the room, I haven't got my phone. Oh, of course it's in my pocket. Grab your phone and record the way you describe the pain, the way you describe the solution, the way you're persuasive in natural, everyday, conversational language with another human is how your copywriting should sound, right? So we've got 3 tips there to sidestep the head junk. And the head junk is that self-talk about how you're not a writer, you shouldn't be doing this, you're not as good as all the other people, etc., etc., etc. And it's BS because what it comes down to is that copywriting is a skill, not a talent, which means it can be learned and it can be practiced, and that is how you get better. But 3 tips to sidestep that junk is create a plan for what it is you want to write. Start with what you know, not the hardest bits of the copy, and that will help you get into the flow. And write like you speak. It's much easier to read and it's much more persuasive. So they are my 3 big tips, and these are the tips that I use in all my copywriting projects. These are the tips that I teach people in the copywriting masterclass and in my private mentoring group, Confident Copywriting. Because even when you're not starting out, we can forget these things, right? and the internal dialogue and the imposter complex and all that kind of stuff just flares up when we're at our most vulnerable. So developing a strong writing process gives you confidence in your ability to do the work and write the copy, but it also makes your copy repeatably awesome all the time. So they are my 3 big tips for you. I would love you to share your big takeaway. If you have ideas and topics and stuff you want to know about, drop them in the comments too, because I got a lot of ideas and I got a lot of knowledge to drop. But if you want to learn about something specific, let me know and we'll put it on the spreadsheet of awesomeness that is the content plan for this group. Organized, right? All right. So you have yourself a good day. I can't wait to read your comments, and I'll see you back here soon.